when I first started selling, it was I can sell it, and it wasn't thinking about you, the buyer, as much. And I think it translates what I do now into what my clients do as well. Have they made that transition from selling something to finding a need that they happen to have? Being curious about what that person's need is, and I wonder if there's a fit here. And if there is, magic happens. If not, move on.
Welcome to Confessions of an Implementer. I'm your host, Ryan Hogan. We share unique stories of EOS implementers and the companies they've transformed to give you a rare glimpse into the successes and challenges of the system in action. Let's jump in. Dave, thank you so much for joining Confessions of an Implementer. Excited to have you. This is going to be a lot of fun today.
No, I remember when you reached out and you had the mustache, not the mustache you have now, but the other one, the evil mustache. I was like, I'm in. So whatever we do, man, it's all good.
I guess a couple things that I wanted to get into, but one of them is, talking to a lot of EOS implementers, there's a lot of like entrepreneurial background. There's a lot of success. There's a lot of successful exits, things like that. What's interesting is like all of the paths, all of the journeys, all of the lessons learned every single time, like completely unique and just incredible story. And I was looking at yours, and I think there's a lot of interesting, like based upon the time when, and I'm talking about the development firm, like when you launched it, it seems like it's like right in the .com, just a lot of stuff going on. How did you start or get into a web development shop?
Yeah. Well, the original business was software training, and nobody knew how to use a computer. All the old people. The old people were like 30. Anyway, so that's when Windows was just like a thing suddenly, and then all these companies needed training on how to use Microsoft Word. And anyway, what happened was eventually they started getting a little beyond that, and you got into these things like Microsoft Front Page and Dreamweaver and these kinds of things. And they were like, what, this is what work. Why are we doing this? Why don't we just pay someone? Do you know anyone? And it became oh wait, we can do that. I could do that. And so I took on this other thing. We started creating this other company, and we just started doing like database development, like Access and Visual Basic, all these different tools, mostly Microsoft. And I had a guy for that. And so I did the websites. He did that. We still have the training business going on. It was like these multiple businesses with multiple people. And this grew. And then what ended up happening was that was I don't have time for this, but one of the things I remember now about what I do is getting the right people in the right seats, right? So it's a phrase, you've heard that many times. Not a new phrase. It was new to me because what ended up happening, I had a partner that at the time, who was doing the database work. Hey, let's create this whole web development company. And instead of doing this thing on the side and stuff like that, let's do that. We did that, and we were just different people. Turns out he's bipolar and mostly on like the sad side. I wish he was like always like on the go, but that's a problem. But this wasn't working out. So I created my own. I took my website clients and my ball went home, and then built that thing up. And so that was like, it was sort of like started with software training into this other database / whatever development company into can you build websites, and then suddenly became this massive 50 projects at a time business.
When did the software training, like what, just give me a decade or like a window for that company.
90s. So yeah, I worked for a guy. In fact, I was horrible at working for other people, and this guy took pity on me, took me on, and he said, I need somebody to sell. I go, well, I kind of sell. So he said, it's a software training business, and so that was 94, and a year later he just upped and moved to Phoenix. I don't blame him, but he's like, I'm done, and so I had all these clients that I'd sold, and that's how that business started, because there's an opportunity. They have contracts, sort of, I guess.
So he just left, and you're like, hey, we still have clients over here.
Yeah. And so some of them were big. I had big colleges that had a lot of their own classes and things like that. So there was a demand that I didn't even have to create at that point. It was just thousands of people that were coming through these things, and it's like, where's our people? And so that's how I got started in that, because the dude left town without, he's like, you want to buy it? And he didn't even wait for my answer. He just took off.
It's like, do you want to buy it? And yes, what it did? How much of the business did you understand? Like, were you the sales guy and like you understood how to sell it, or did you understand other aspects of the business?
So my first bit, I'm backing up even from that. My first job after college, which was, everyone wanted to be an entrepreneur. Some people you'll talk to, they kind of found their way into. I knew from the beginning, my dad was an entrepreneur. I saw the value of that, so I always wanted to be one. So my first job was entrepreneurial, and it was I was selling life insurance. Hey Ryan, you're gonna die. Do you love your family? Give me $100 a month. And so it was.
Seems like a pretty easy sell on that one.
I was not good, and so 2 years into that, this guy, like I said, I went to him. I actually had another job at one point selling, horrible at that sell too. I went to this guy and I said, I read this book called What Color's Your Parachute? And it was all about like finding that perfect job. And ultimately it wasn't an entrepreneurial book. It was a book about, finding that career. And one of the things it said was like, hey, you know what? You like training people, you like computers, you also like apparently law. And so it tells you to go look at people, talk to people who are in those industries. So I talked to 3 people in each one of those things: training of some kind, software, computers, law. So I did. The lawyers all told me, they all said words like, they took pity on me. They brought me to lunch. I had no money because I sucked at the last job, remember? And so what happened, they sat me down, and I'm 24 probably years old, right? And 3 different lawyers who did not know each other, all said to me, Dave, I just want you to take this piece of advice, and then I'm going to pay for lunch because it's going to be worth it. Since everybody hates lawyers, and we all hate being lawyers. How's the veal? It was like, what? He's like, you argue for a living. Good. Why would that book say you want to do that? Is this something I'm like, oh no, I like people. He's like, exactly. Don't do that. You seem like a nice guy. Get out. So, so the other two, I didn't want to be a teacher. In school systems and things like that, bureaucracy. I knew it was entrepreneurial. I went to see this guy who did this business, like I described, and he was more of a programmer guy. But he's like, we have the software training thing, and you can come sell for me. Maybe you'll do a class once or twice. So I knew nothing of how to run that business or how to run a business effectively. I knew I could sell, and I knew there was a process and systems and stuff like that I needed to do. I didn't have any, college gave me some good. I mean, there's some classes like personal selling and organizational development, but those are really for bigger companies. And there's really nothing, and I tried to make my own. There was no entrepreneurial classes back then, but I kind of made my own independent study kind of things going to college. I was doing that, got some credit where I could, but ultimately, I didn't have. If I knew now, but I should have known then, those would have been more successful businesses, or I would have gotten out of them faster because like chasing that squirrel, chasing what's the sunk cost fallacy. That happened for a while too.
It's like the hardest sunk cost. It's the hardest thing to move to get away from. What about your dad? Because you said so. It sounds like you were getting into this. There's not a lot of experience. You're about to just like dive in head first. The lawyers all said like, "Hey, we all hate ourselves, so don't be like us." And so that was great. You also said you grew up in a family that was entrepreneurial. What about your father?
Yeah. So my dad up until, so we moved to Lake Placid, New York for the Winter Olympics. If you've heard of that. And so we moved there because he worked at the telephone system forever, yeah, in bureaucracy, right? So management. And then we moved there. He was on the organizing committee for that, and we were very involved. He was very involved with that. And after the Olympics, of course, it's over. You don't need that job anymore. So he was like, I don't want to go. I do not want to go back to big business, to the telephone company. So he started his own business. And as kids, I was probably 11 years old when he started the business, and it was an alarm system company. And there was no ADT or Simply Safe or any of these kind of things. There was just like individual alarm system companies, and so and they're expensive. And so he started selling that. Um, I didn't know we lived in a nice house, and I had no idea until the day I show up at school. And they're like, "Oh wait, you have a special card." I'm like, "What is that?" "You should get free lunch." Like, "Oh, cool." I had no idea why, right? Because he had putting all the money into the business, like every dime we had, and it wasn't making it the first. Uh, and eventually he did. So I saw the freedom. I guess the word is freedom. Uh, there's a big asterisk to that, of course, as you know. But the freedom of saying, "Hey, do I have control, somewhat control of my destiny? If I can sell something and I can make something that people want to buy, and then I can get paid for it, wouldn't that be great?" So I saw that, and his freedom of being able to do those kind of things, and being the boss, whatever words you want to call that. Um, I thought that was interesting, and so we always, he was always pushing. He's still alive, always pushing that. Um, that idea of like, if you want something, go sell it. Like, sales is the first thing. He said sales is number one. The product is secondary. You don't need to, you're not an engineer. Don't be that. Um, at least for me. Don't make it, they will come. You have to just find it and then get people to buy it. Right. So so that's the background. And I learned from him, learn from everyone, right? What to do, what not to do. And from him, what I did, the part I learned to do was, hey, if you want to control your own destiny at some point, give it a shot, right? If your brain is, I can't work for other people, that probably means you think you're an entrepreneur, and give it a shot. What's the worst that will happen?
Did you look at sales? Because like it's not that you looked at that or took that advice and then jumped immediately into entrepreneurship. You read some books, you went to school, you dabbled in some other things, and then you jumped into a sales role. Like, did you look at sales or the sales role as like an entry point into entrepreneurship, or were you thinking like, hey, if I can just get really good at selling, like people become millionaires all day long with being salespeople?
That's right. Well, both. I knew that was going to be my entree. I went to an engineering school, Clarkson University. It's very much an engineering mindset. People typically work for other people. They'll create their own businesses, but the idea is, build something, fix something. I didn't have that skill set. I don't. I mean, I'm horrible at that at home. So yet sales had to be the way. And I like people, like I said before. Um, I'm curious and I like to help people and all that. So that was my dad said too. He's like, the way to business, the first thing you have to do is sell it, and what it is not important. It's like, you can sell it, you can do it. Um, so I wasn't thinking about the other end. Once you sell it, then make it and buy it and customer service and all that stuff that has to happen. I was just thinking almost like a very micro business mindset of, hey, I sell it, it'll come. That's why my first job I was really excited about that was that life insurance business, because I thought I could sell anything. It's my own business. I'm doing this in quotes. And so um, it's just a matter of what I'm selling, and how much passion I have for it ultimately. But yeah, in the end of the day, sales, that was my entree. Brian Tracy, all these people back in the day of selling these things. There's a couple of them. Zig Ziglar was a guy. I was just on those things. The guy that made the envelopes, I can't remember his name. He was the envelope guy. John, shoot, I'll think of it later. Jack, I don't know, one of those names. But he was, I would just read those books highlighted yellow, because that's what you had to do. Just highlight, constantly highlight. Whole thing was yellow. And just really got into sales, into the mentality of the psychology of sales, and then getting what you want that way.
Did those moments or experiences in your life like validate that that was the correct path, or has your advice to young people iterated, shifted, evolved based upon those experiences that you had?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely shifted. I mean, you think about youth, and you think about there's energy in youth, of course. there's naivety in youth. And so with those two things, energy and naivety, you can kind of feel like you could do anything, which is why insurance companies don't like under 25-year-old male necessarily. And I think for me, what I learned about like I'm not when I first started selling, it was I can sell it, and it wasn't thinking about you, the buyer, as much. And I think it translates what I do now into what my clients do as well. Have they made that transition from selling something to finding a need that they happen to have, being curious about what that person's need is, and I wonder if there's a fit here. And if there is, magic happens. And if not, move on. I think that part of me was saying to, hey, Ryan, even if you were one of my friends, Ryan, you're 24 years old, and you're going to die and someday, and you better start planning now. I would just try to force in whatever thing that I sold into that. Software training, everybody needs it. Websites, everybody needs, I mean, it did, but uh, it was it was just that mindset, I think, of being curious first. And that's a part I think has changed over time. Whereas I just wanted, if I wanted to make money, um, I would sell it, and then the numbers game. It's not a numbers game. I mean, it can be, but I'm more curious about people and if I can help you. It's a mindset change. I don't even try not to track my numbers about my close ratios and things like that. And I see clients that do it successfully. They find passion in what they do. They're not political about it. It's not like my way is better than your way. It's like, hey, we've got something that might work for you, and if it does, let's figure that out. I think a lot of the clients that I resonate with, or maybe both ways. It's that they are help first. It's actually one of our core values, but they're help first, curious about like how they can help someone, and then if they need that thing, why wouldn't we be the choice? If we're good at it.
Was this immediate? Was this like after your, a few reps and you're like, "Oh, selling isn't like forcing things, upon people. This is like asking questions." Like where was that shift for you in life?
Well, the shift was, yeah, the original story of all of this stuff is like my dad would be old school sales, and so it's the other side of it, right? Um, and he's changed now too, but the idea was, oh, what color do you want it, red or blue? Like that's how you get someone to buy something, right? You like water, don't you? Right? How much water do you need? I don't know. It's like one of these. I think for me, I got beaten up so many times by by you can just see it in their eyes. I'm not going to trust you. I'd be at these networking events that would be like the parting of the Red Sea. Here comes Dave. People would avoid me like the plague, rightly so.
See, you still had the lawyer or the recruiter. You had that stink on you as you went around.
Yeah, so I didn't recognize that in that first. I failed. So that first one, 2 years into that thing, I failed. But I was bad at it. By the way, have clients in that business now. The exact organization, and exact life insurance company. Um, And it's fascinating by people who are successful at it because they are what I believe I am now, which is let's be curious if you can help you versus a numbers game, which is 10-3-1, 10-3-1, 10 people, 3 people proposals, one will buy. I just keep churning away. And those are true. But I think when did that change? I think it's, who was it that said, was it one of those books, Ernest Hemingway, when somebody when he went bankrupt, it was like slowly and then suddenly. When did you go bankrupt? Slowly, then suddenly. And for me, I think what had happened was there was a light bulb moment in the uh, website development company. So before that, I was old school doing stuff, and I was still doing it in the beginning. And I'm like, where's the value in this? And having these things like, why are these people buying, and kind of forcing it. Um, and I learned about this system called Sandler Sales, and part of that was, there's a method, but really it's a bunch of questions. It's all questions, and I thought, hey, questioning works, but not questions to force people to. What color do you want on your phone or your car or whatever? It was, tell me, what are you hoping for? Big open questions, and what would you do if you could? and whatever it would be. And I use those now, and I use those in the website business, like a little mini psychologist. I'm like, why are we talking about a website? Well, you called me. You called us and say you want a website, but what do you want in this website? Well, I want it to be this, and I want the about us page. No, no, no. What do you want? Let me back up. What do you want in life? What are you hoping this thing's going to do? And when that change happened, it wasn't about price or anything like that. It became about relationships. That I don't know when that was. Probably 30, 31. It started to, and I started to, of course, the systems that I'm using now, all the mindset, and then the system Sandler. I learned about the E-Myth, the book The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Systems and processes matter. I learned about that, and I learned about all these things. John Maxwell, all these people want leadership. People care when you do all that stuff. And so I just a matter of like, okay, I'm curious. I need to learn more about this thing that I don't know much about. It says president in my title on my business card, but what does that mean? It means nothing because I have no idea how to run a business beyond selling at that point. So then it became even worse when I started to have people. Like, how do I do this? That's another epiphany I had.
Well, that's that. I mean, I didn't even have to take us back there. You took us right back. That's the thing is your business card went from sales to president. The owner said goodbye, you said Scottsdale, and now your business card says president. Like, how do you start to pick up all these other aspects of the business that quick?
Yeah, you don't. You fail miserably. So I had periods of time, and I remember this, for all the businesses that I had, and even the successful ones, where there's a period where you question yourself. I know people do I know I do as a parent. Sometimes I question myself. Am I a good parent? Like, am I a good boss? Is this a good business? Whatever it is, there's always a sense of doubt. And I had the doubt when I hired my very first person in that first business, the software training business, that wasn't a trainer, that you could just see them do the job. I had somebody do like office stuff and things like that. And I thought, if I don't make the sale this week, she doesn't know it, but she could be let go next week. She thinks she's in a secure job because she's working for someone. And that, like, oh my gosh, I've got people now. Now they're not children, but it's like I've got to feed mouths. That was a real thing. And I grew up fast at that one when I saw that, I can't mess around. I can't take a day off if it's sunny out. It's not as much freedom as I thought, but if I can find a way, and I didn't know about like, there's Dan Sullivan was not in my life at that point. The guy, who, not how, find a who. I didn't have any of that. I thought I had to do it all myself. And that didn't happen till later where I understood that. Probably EOS, when I learned about EOS. The idea of just like trying to plug away at things and hoping that I can firefight my way to the next week throughout that stuff. And I think, there's moments in there where you're just like, okay, I've got 5 people or 7 people or 12 people or 20 people or more. What is, and they're all looking at me for a pay raise and looking at me for this person, took my, this person's in the bathroom too long. What do we do about it? This person took my chair. Like, it was like, I can't do all these things and deal with a chair. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, quick break, friends. Do you find it impossible to hire and retain top sales talent? Or worse, are you paying insane recruiter fees who are all using outdated hiring processes? Yeah, I was too. At Hunt to Killer, we were spending hundreds of thousands on recruiter agency fees. And after I sold that company in 2025, I started Talent Harbor. And the whole vision here was to make sales recruiting accessible to small and medium-sized businesses, because the organizations that can hire and retain world-class people are the ones that ultimately win. Most organizations rely on things like ZipRecruiter or LinkedIn, and they get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes. But we find that the best salespeople are already perfectly placed somewhere else. And that's why our approach is to go after them. And we do that through a business model called recruiting as a service. We do not charge commissions. We do not have success fees. We don't have contracts. We don't have long-term engagements. And we become an extension of your team as expert sales recruiters. If you're tired of the same old recruiters and want to actually grow your sales team, check us out at talentharbor.com. That's Talent Harbor, TALENTHARBOR.com. Let's get your next sales superstar hired. Here's what's funny about chairs. Like, you say chairs, and other people out there might be like, that doesn't happen. I had, and you know, we had people fight over chairs at my last company. Somebody was like, these chairs are more comfortable. We had upgraded some of the furniture, and so this person stole that person's chair and didn't say anything, and we literally had chair issues. And it sounds like this is a common thing in companies.
It is. Apparently, we just need to sell better chairs. We have a consistent chair, just a chair. We should make a business.
The chairs probably could be metaphors as well, but in our stories, they're quite literal, which is hilarious.
Yeah. It was like, what? You're adults. No. Yeah, people need what they need.
Basically, it sounds like a fire hose. It sounds like this all went down. Your position in the company changed, so you had to not just be the salesperson, but now you had to run stuff. And it sounds like the weight of that responsibility and looking around, saying like, it's not just me anymore. It's not just like, I don't just have to take care of me or get myself a paycheck. Like, we need to make sure that this thing stays alive. What happened from there? It was everything. Besides the chairs, was everything perfect, or did stuff fall apart a couple times?
No. There would be times where you'd come in, it's a great week, your clients would pay you. You'd have other weeks where, well, what would end up happening would be, we got to this spot where we built a nice new office. So I could build a nice new office. So started making some money there, and we moved in, and the receptionist, I had like this glass. I designed my office and had a lot of these glass window things I could see out. But when the postal service guy would come by, the mailman would come by, drop off all the mail. Well, but the key is, don't run out there very fast. That's what I've learned. It took me a while to run out there and look for the checks, right? Because that kind of panics people, apparently. And so I was like, oh, thank God, there's a $10,000 check or whatever it would be, could pay payroll. Sometimes that would spit out of my mouth. I think what you're finding is, and you know this as an owner of business, it's words matter and your actions matter. And in those actions of me being terrified, that was probably not a good time to show that kind of thing. Like, hey, there's a way to do this, figure it out, but also fix the problem. Ultimately, what's the problem? Problem is not me going out and pretending everything's cool. It's make everything. How do we do this better? And so ultimately, if you think about the chair issue or any of these issues, sometimes the people were legitimately asking they had real problems coming into the business, just like I do. They had problems in the business. They are just frustrated with, they can't fix them because they're not the owner. They had stuff like that. But sometimes they were just the wrong people. I hired poorly. And I can love them, but I got to love them someplace else. Or maybe I don't even love them. Like, there's some people like that were just, I have no idea how. And mostly it was me. It's always on me, but it was me probably that did the final hiring for them in the beginning. And it became, well, whose fault is it? Well, I hired them. Yeah. And so, over time, you learn who, not how. Dan Sullivan, should I be hiring people? No, should not be hiring people.
It sounds like we've both made quite a few hiring mistakes. Did you ever look back and say it was because of this or because of this, or like I was using my gut? Like, was there an 80-20 principle for the hiring decisions that you made?
Yeah, absolutely. It was all me. My decision, although we would follow, like, okay, we'll have a checklist and we're going to check their background, do all these things. Ultimately, it came down to, my wife calls this a coin theory, by the way. It's a trademark, Tammy Borland. She says, that was the trademark. But you've heard this term, your whatever your thing that is really good at your strength is also a weakness in a different light. So mine is my optimism, right? This guy, oh yeah, he's had an accident. He hit someone with a car. He had a bad job. His last boss he hates. I'm sure he'll be better this time. And so I would, because he can do his job or whatever. And so I can change this. I can fix this. I can do all that. So I think ultimately the theme is who hired those people. I mean, forget the process. I wasn't following it, right? So there's another problem. I would go, I'm the boss. I don't need to, you guys have the checklist. Thanks for getting to me now, and I'll make the final decision. It was a gut problem, but my gut was optimism gut, if it's a thing, it's a phrase. And that's what I would do. And so this guy would come in, ultimately, 3 out of 4 would come in and they would be poor hires, not because of them, because of me hiring in a wrong spot.
Did you change anything? Like what maybe that was the who not how. What did you stop using your gut, or you just say, I'm terrible at hiring. I'm not doing this anymore?
Well, actually, the team sat me down. They had an intervention once. The team that was kind of good. They're like, get out, right? It's like, what? You think you can sell. Here's what you can do. This is before EOS. You can sell. You can lead. You can be a fearless leader. You can rah rah. That's fun. Mm, that's it. Where you get out. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I can run the whole thing, and I'm thinking org charty kind of thing where me and like more like a rake, everyone. Um, and they were like, wait a minute, you're on every projects at email. Remember, we had 50 at this point in that business, we had 50 projects going on about every given day. And I would sell some, I had another salespeople doing stuff, but ultimately it was my business. So I was involved and understood every single website. I thought it would be like a nice stamp to know who the clients were, know everything. And then the clients would know that and they go, oh, it's Dave's business. So if I have a problem, I'll go right to Dave. And Dave, third partying myself, Dave would be okay taking the call and go marching down and trying to fix the issue. And so a part of the hiring, the reviewing, the working with managing people, all of it should not have been me if I know now what I know now about EOS and the accountability chart. There's functions, there's roles within that function, and they put your name in it. I didn't know any of that. I just thought business owner, buck stops here on everything. And that eye-opening thing happened uh, even past the web development company into the marketing agency, which is the last of those companies. When we did that, we learned about EOS, and it was aha.
Yes, EOS was that's generally a pretty big theme too. Well, with me and with implementers is like the discovery and the aha moment, and then we become so passionate about this thing, we have to somehow, like, you're doing the Lord's work now. You went out and actually did the whole EOS. You're now an EOSI. I just like staying around the ecosystem because it was such a life changer. When when you were talking about some of the changes that you made and the intervention that your team had, here was my brilliant idea. So I was getting hiring wrong, and we did this whole sit down. I said, okay, we're going to put a third-ish interview or fourth-ish interview in the process. We're going to call it the panel interview. The hiring manager is going to be pulled out of it, and it's going to be peers. And there's going to be 3 to 5 that sit in the room, and then they're going to offer their feedback. So we did that. The problem was I was still involved in the process until we got there. So by the time we got to the panel interview, my gut, I already knew. So I remember we were looking for somebody very high up in the company, and I already knew out of the 3 which we were hiring. Gave it to the team. The team says, whatever we do, we don't hire this person. And I was like, we're hiring that person. So like, even the things that like I tried to do to not self-sabotage the whole thing, yeah, still jumped around it because the gut was too strong.
It's probably one of the hardest things to do is to get through all the BS of what everyone who wants a job is going to put their best foot forward. It's like a first date, and so you don't know which way their toilet paper rolls or whether they have a preference until you move in with them. And so there's I just thought of that, by the way.
You'd be like, "Are you a serial killer? Because this is backwards."
Yeah, we can check for that stuff, sort of, I guess. I don't know. Dead bodies in the basement. My ultimately though, it's like we were doing top grading, and that was cool. It's a big company thing and all that. We have these. It's a process. It worked on the hiring side of things. A lot of interviews. Where do I get involved? Where's my stamp on that one? It's like we had to figure that out, and I see that almost all my clients. It's like this idea of like, if you have the founding entrepreneur making a decision early on someone, yeah, like you said, it's already decided. I usually find that the fearless leader, the visionary person, might be the last person to say, "Hey, are you a core value fit?" Or if he or she is gonna work directly with that visionary or somewhere in that space, then absolutely change that up a little bit because they're a direct manager, yeah, of that person. But if you're like, "Hey, I just want to make sure I trust my," they have to kind of delegate and elevate the term we use. They have to trust that their team knows the process of hiring, all that tactical stuff, and also strategically, what do I need? Is the person a core value fit? All that. If you can't trust your team to do all that, you'll never grow past the law of the lid. You can't grow past yourself. And 20, 30, 40, there's some number in there where you can't hold all the strings on you're not that puppet, puppeteer. Just can't. The strings are going to get all messed up. And I think hiring, certainly reviewing all that, but hiring is the one that I found most visionaries get out of the way until a point, right? Maybe it's the last interview. I don't know.
Yeah, like at least like the bias, not that it's been removed, but you haven't been in far enough to like develop bias for a preferential of one. Like where I try and sit in our hiring processes today is like the very last interview, and it's the sanity check interview. Um, obviously these are for people that are not direct reports for me because I do think like you have to be engaged to a certain extent if like you are the actual hiring manager they're reporting to you, but um yeah, I'd like to be the last step. And then also as a part of that, like my job today in recruit, and it's also my business partner is a recruiter. So like she has 25 years of recruiting experience. She was the best recruiter that we ever used at Hunt to Killer. It's the whole reason that I'm in the business that I'm in today. So I'm very fortunate that I have a world-class recruiter as a partner. And what that means is like what I look at my job as is like getting that person excited. So a lot of my conversations are around core values, are around like where we're going and like the excitement around those types of things versus like are you the right fit? Because my expectation is they've gone through 5 interviews before they got to me. Um, and I just want to make sure they hit the ground running.
It's fascinating. You're in the business too, so who not how, you'd be a who for a business that I would work with, right? So this idea, but even within your own business, you need that sanity check person. It's like you're the professionals, and yet there's always something in there. You're like, are we making the right decision here? And your systems and processes, like I said, that it's a thing that most people think they can do themselves, and even if they're trained, it's hard. And I wasn't. And so this idea of, and still I'm not trained. I've probably hired hundreds of people personally. I don't know how many of those were great hires, right? And so it was not hundreds, but the goal there is just because I've done it a million times does not mean I'm good at it. And so ultimately, I learned that too, and specifically about things like this. It's like, what, is there something in finance or marketing or sales, something in your business that you struggle with, and your data shows that you're struggling with it, which is key. Like, hey, what's our turnover? That'd be a good one for this one, right? Our turnover's high. That's interesting. Well, where's the issue? Is it a management issue? Is it a tools issue? We get success. We're hiring poorly. We're never reviewing. No, pay is horrible. What's the thing that we're doing? And it could be all the above or some of the above. But yeah, having people like you that were like, if we could just hand 90% off and then make that final thing. I know we can't make it in a vacuum. You can't make it in a vacuum, but that's one of those things. We just talked about people a lot, just to hiring this a lot of this conversation so far. And it's not because you're in the business, but because you get it.
Like that is business. Like that's what, if there's been like one takeaway over the last like 15 years and all the failures that I've had in entrepreneurship, like it's always been because of people. Like we have succeeded or we have failed based upon the people. And somebody would say, like, oh, well, it's process. Oh, it's the stuff that you track. Yes, but it's people that are building that process. It's people that are either executing or not executing it across the core metrics or KPIs that you have in place. Um, so anyhow, yeah, I mean, that's probably why we're both like gravitating towards this conversation. And the other thing is like, and visionaries, like visionaries are really bad at this. Like, we are impulsive people, we are gut people, we are instinct people. And so when we have this connection with someone that we like, and someone that we feel a connection with, it's very hard for us to pull away from that. One of the reasons that I used to like hiring recruiting firms was because the person that I would have hired, I will never even have a conversation with, because that person will be weeded out long before it ever gets to my level. Oh, yeah. What so we talked a little bit about here. I feel bad. We're like 40 some minutes in, and like now we're at the discovery part of EOS. So when did you discover EOS? Like, how far were you into the development business?
Yeah, so we actually we'd merged. So we had so that web development company. I had a friend of mine who had his own business. It was a graphic design. They did print all the printing stuff for marketing and promotional products, tactical things. We did the digital things, and we thought, it would be really cool if we get together. We combine these because both people need all of this stuff, and they don't have a logo. It's something they have something. And what if we did this? What if we created a company that became a marketing agency, and these just became tactics of that company? Wouldn't that be cool? So we started partnering first, and then we actually merged them into this one entity. And we actually brought on another guy who was a strategist, marketing strategist, real guy, who's also now an EOS implementer, one of my great friends. He's awesome. I got him into EOS. The Yeah, the concept. What ended up happening was between us, we started using this system called scaling up. Back in the day, it was called Rockefeller habits or gazelles, and so and it was working, but it really wasn't working. And it probably us that wasn't. To be fair, it probably wasn't the system. It was us not working the system properly. And one day, my partner, his name is Dave too, comes and he says, "Hey, we're thinking about partnering with this other company, and they've got this. He's got these book traction. I got all the traction books back here. Here we go." And he says, we should read it and then we consider doing it. I'm like, we're already doing a system, and they're all the same. They're all going to suck. I can't, blah blah blah. Woe is me. It's not working. We started failing, by the way. Day two, after I didn't tell you this part, we put these great companies together. We were both making a ton of money. Put them together, put all the people together, and day two we started losing money because we went, hey, we don't know those. We don't need those 50 projects or these print promotional things that are, the race to the bottom of price. And let's go after marketing agency stuff, pitch real campaigns and things that we didn't really know what we're doing yet. And so we had all these people that were tactical trying to do stuff like that. And we hired some people on and brought on some partnerships. But it was like we didn't know, had any idea who was going to be what, where, and how. And so what we didn't do with Rock Habits was we didn't really have a functional org chart, or what we now call accountability chart in EOS. And we all like, I'll just take finance, I'll take marketing, I guess. It's like not it. And so And so we took those things and we started failing. So we found this system, EOS, simply because the book was given to us and they said, you guys need this. And I was like, I don't want to do it. Well, we're going to do it anyway. I had two partners, brother and sister, and this other guy. But he was out of the pit. We had bought him out. So there's two out of three said, we're doing it. Like, okay, for all equal owners, I guess we'll do it. They said, you're gonna run this system. They told me I'm going to run the system. Great. At least I have some control. Let's do it. And so started doing it, and we needed a turnaround, like an actual dollar turnaround. We got 6 months into that thing, and we were. We're making tons of money again. We had the right people in the right seats. I become like, this is that epiphany of like, why am I an EOS implementer? Because it worked for me. Um, and it was like this. I hated to come there. I loved being there. at that business. It just felt like we were on a trajectory of awesome. And then what ended up happening, just FYI, what ended up happening, why I'm not in that business now, it was not, it was a successful exit. But to make the successful exit, what happened was my partner said, "Hey, we want to merge that company we're partnering with. Let's do that." And, and there's a husband and wife owning that business too. And like, and it's healthcare marketing. And I'm not a hospital. I don't like to go to hospitals. I know they're needed, but hospital marketing, anything to do with healthcare, it's just not. I don't know. I just didn't find joy in it. And merging with people who were quasi fits with us, they're great people, but we just had a different mindset of on core values and things like that. Um, and he's actually the one who introduced us to the book Traction. So he knew about it. He wasn't really, he was doing it differently. So we started doing this thing, and I'm like, they're going to merge now. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's not going to work. It's going to be 4 owners, brother, sister, husband, wife, and me, right? 5 owners. That's 5. I'm good at math. And, and so I was like, they're like, how about an exit? I'm like, yes, please. And so that was a very successful exit in 2014. And then, and they continued on and did their thing. And 2 weeks later, I was like, wait, I got out of this thing. It was somewhat quick. It was like 3 months, from beginning to end. You do the lawyer thing and all that stuff. And you got paid. And then I thought, what do I do next? I don't even know. Like my dad said, find something you could sell and sell it. And am I going to build something again? And so one of my clients at the marketing agency, he called me and he says, hey, that thing you guys did, I saw a huge turnaround in you guys. Not, they're just smiling all the time and doing stuff. What, can you do that thing for us? I think we might need it. And so I was like, oh yeah, yeah. So I called EOS. I found they had at the time, you could just download the materials and here's the whole playbook and the whole 9, and you can do that. And you can call yourself an EOS implementer without being part of their community. And I did that. And that guy started referring me. It worked, apparently. He started referring me. I got referred to like all these people on the country. I was going to Seattle and LA. I live in upstate New York. So I was going to Florida. I was having a good time, but it was a lot of travel because I just said yes to everything. And then suddenly I realized I'm doing this full time and I like it and apparently have a knack for it. And so eventually what ended up happening was, so I had 400, you call these sessions when you have this, if you have an implementer, you have a session with that implementer, typically 5 days a year. I had 400 some odd sessions with clients, maybe 450 before EOS was purchased, and they said, hey, the new model is something different. You have to become an EOS implementer. You have to be a franchisee. And you're either going to do it or you're not going to be an EOS implementer. You cannot call yourself. You can't coach on it. You can't use our tools unless you're inside that company. We'll go after you. And I thought, I love it. I love this business. Of course. And so I jumped in, even thinking it was going to be a Kool-Aid drinking kind of Amway kind of thing, like, one of those multi-level. It wasn't. It isn't. So that happened in 2021. And so somebody will say, how many sessions do you have? I can either say 430 since then, or I could say 900.
They wouldn't let you carry forward the other 400 and some?
No, so it's a good regret. It's a one regret of not trusting that these people actually did have the core values that they say they have, and they do. I was wrong. I apologize, and I'm paying for it. And so I still tell people 900 though. I'm still going to do it.
Yeah, I would do that too. What there's one thing you said that I like, we've got to key in on, just because, like, well, I'm deeply curious, and I think it gets to some of the underlying value of the stuff that you do. You had said earlier, you said the business was not going in the right direction, and this was like right before you had implemented EOS, and then it was right before the second merger like had come up, and you said everything had changed, and like I was excited to come to work again. Like, what fundamentally changed about the business to get you to a place of where you were like, I may or may not want to do this anymore to I love coming in every day.
Yeah, it was so bad coming in. I would come in every day, and Saturday and Sunday, and all nights, and the whole thing. It was always coming in, but hating it. And what happened? So, okay, we got the book traction. We started implementing it. I was starting to see it was different than the other system. EOS, not to bash any systems, but EOS is very execution focused, right? So if you have an idea, this is not like blue ocean strategy. So you're not going to do blue ocean strategy with EOS. You got to do blue ocean strategy, right? Hey, what's new and fancy and all that. But once you have a concept of what you should be doing, EOS was the tool we needed, and so we knew what we wanted. So we had that. We had that side. We knew the strategy. We had all that kind of stuff. It was the execution, getting the right people in the right seats, doing the right things in the right ways, accountability, execution, all that. Team health was important, which that wasn't part of what we were thinking beforehand. So I think what ended up happening was we started with the account, like most implementers will do. Hopefully everyone does. The first tool we do with a client is called the accountability chart. You know that one. Um, and it's like day one, first tool, the whole thing. And it's like, why are we doing this? Because the structure you have may not be the structure you need, and the people in that structure might not be the right people. Period. And so, what do we need? So we talk about what we need if we're starting over. We did that, and it was a kind of an eye-opening thing, or it was just not it. Um, right? Like, oh, we need real people in finance. So the sister, my partner, love her. She was great, but she was not a finance person. She was stuck in that role because she didn't do this fast enough. And it was more like, how much money do we have in the bank versus like profit P&L, or like any financial tools whatsoever, except for how much do we have, which is not a great way to run a business. So we had to find a controller at that time that was good. We had to find who. So we had to learn. I think that tool was one of those, like, okay, the secondary part is how do we afford them, right? The first part is what do we need? If you could start with that, then it was like, okay, how would we do this? Well, when we look at the structure, we also noticed that there's a whole bunch of people we didn't need anymore, sadly. So we had to make hard choices. So ultimately, it wasn't just like, oh, put this in place and everything's going to be rosy, and 6 months later we're making money. There's choices that we made previously that now we have to make hard choices on. And usually that means, as you know, people, right? It was wrong seat people, wrong culture people. We didn't explore our core values. And when we did, we were like plugged it in and we went, wow, interesting. There's three of these people who we would not hire again, even if we could train them how to do their job. And actually, two of them were really good at their job. And we made a lot of money. The money we did make was from them. And we're like, okay, we have to trust that this system works. And so I think it's a leap of faith that also happens. So accountability chart, if it's true, core values, if they're true, apply them to the people, called People Analyzer. We did that tool called People Analyzer, which shows the two of those together. And we went, all these people we don't need. And then we also, numbers. The second thing we did was, if you're familiar with the EOS model, looks like a circle, right? That data component. And that was just, what is our number? And our number happened to be billable efficiency. And we were at 30%. We need to be at 60%. We found out what world class was. So yeah, across the whole team, reception, salespeople who were not billable at all to 100% billable or somewhat billable, mostly billable graphic designer or whatever. So anyway, once we did that, I think what ended up happening was, you said it all boils back down to people, but data doesn't lie. What's the data that we need? Okay, cool. Let's figure out how to issue solve, not solve tactically. So all the tool, I'm just picturing the whole EOS model, and it's just that circle thing. All six components were weak, and all six components needed to be stronger. And we started with, not what we want long term, but we started with structure. And so it's like, what do we have? What's the data tell us? Okay, this is what we want. We went there next. We went to vision. What is it we want? 3 short years, or 1 year, even 6 months, whatever. It was like, okay, let's IDS, let's identify, discuss, and solve. Is it a process problem? Yes or no, right? And so we got good at solving issues faster by putting those people in that level 10 We didn't even call it level 10 yet. We were sort of bastardizing EOS. We call it a rock meeting because that's what they called it in the other system. And we were just, but we did it, and we did it every week. And even if we didn't like showing up, we did it. And I think if I tell people anything, is this: just keep going. And even if it's a day you don't want, you're going to get to that day you do want, but you have to do the hard work to do it. And hopefully not as long as you think it is, but it's going to be hard at first every time. If you want something different you have now, you cannot do it just by doing it the same way you did it before.
What do you look for in a client? Like you have had, I don't know how many other people have had 900 plus sessions. Not a lot. You are in a rare rare air there. What do you look for in a client?
I look for in a client several things. One, they have to be entrepreneurial. So if they're looking to be slow and steady wins the race, which is cool, probably not. US, why do it? Just don't. They need to be curious, people themselves, open, honest. We'll all say some of these words, but they've got to, and I mean that they've got to be honest about it, which means they have to go there. They have to be open to hear it. There's two things. There's not one sentence, open and honest. It's two distinct things. If they can be honest about it, that's great. If they also, it's about them, especially the owner. If the owner is humble enough to hear it, that, hey, boss, you suck, that's a good client for me. They also have to be kind of funny, or at least enjoy my humor. So if they don't, it's not going to work. I would say, you know, if it's deaf ears on any jokes that I make, it's going to be a long day, and my energy is derived from their energy, and vice versa. So, not that we're joking around with business, but if you can't have fun, I'm not your right person. Like, there are implementers, like you said, they come from everywhere. There's some people who are accountants and CPA kind of people that are just like engineer types that are just like, it's driving to the numbers. Let's do your thing. I'm going to get you there. I got humor, but it's got to be dry humor and it's got to be sarcasm. Uh, to what I do is more optimism. So anyway, those people have to, but the ones that really work well with me are the ones that find joy in helping other people too. And so humble, open, honest, joy in helping other people. They do want something. They're goal driven. Like, I went to this thing called 29 to 9 2 weeks ago. Did this Everesting ultra hike. It's 36 hours to do 30,000 feet. That hat, you can't see it back there. There's a hat back there. You pay a lot of money so that you can wear this red hat that says 29 to 9 on it, because you did this hard event. I had 6 clients at that thing, and I was like, wow, these clients are, I love them. Who do I mean, I love a lot of clients, but if I were to say, hey, if I could just spend time with 6 people for 36 hours and sweaty, like, that's a high bar.
Do most of your clients, are they like set in a geographical region, or do you still travel all over the US?
I try not to travel the U.S. now. I just you call it graduation when part ways, but you're not in their life regularly every quarter. Right? So that kind of idea. You can come back. My last one, I did California. I had a California client, San Diego. Love them. They're great. And love San Diego, but it's too far for me. So, and my new rule is, if it's a direct flight from Albany, New York, I'm in, right? And so it's regional. I just took a client on today. It's 5 minutes from my house. Love that. I can go to my house quickly. If I forget something, I could run back during a break, whatever. But I was just in yesterday. I have a Pittsburgh client. It's not a direct flight. That's been with me for 8 years, and they refused to let me go. And we met in Cleveland, which is even farther away. But ultimately, it's got to be a direct flight from Albany. So the hubs, things like that. All New York City, sure, drivable distance. Boston, Northeast is a very like, there's a lot of people up here. I do have a New York City client, but I have my cohort of great EOS implementers. Typically, it's not my style for I'll give that. I'll just say I have got like 4 or 5 people you want to talk to down in the city or New Jersey. It's just a different mindset than I typically bring to the table. But Florida. If you've got people in Florida, love Florida, especially now coming up.
Is it? Wait a minute. There's direct flights from Albany to Florida.
Oh yeah, we got to get out. That's how it works. We can play Orlando, Tampa, Miami, or Fort Lauderdale. My favorite.
Yeah. Right now my favorite is Tampa, like St. Pete Beach area. But I haven't spent a lot of time in like Fort Lauderdale, Miami. I should go on the other side. Okay. All right. Someone just listened to this whole thing and they're like, "Holy crap. I happen to live around Albany and like we are a very curious leadership team. How would they get a hold of you?"
So a couple ways. Easy to find me on LinkedIn, certainly. Dave Borland. There's only about 10,000 people like my Dave Borland, and I guess I don't know, but Dave Borland, the EOS Implementer. Around me. So there's certainly the EOSworldwide.com/Dave Borland or Dave-Borland, I think. Linked either one of those two. They could probably Google me and they'll find me, Dave Borland, EOS Implementer. I can certainly give my phone out if you want to on this thing right here.
We'll put some stuff in the show notes. You don't have to do the phone number thing. Some do, and I'm like, dude, that's a lot.
Yeah. So ultimately, like I said, I'm curious. I cannot help everyone. I will say this. I can help everyone that needs it, wants it, all the things we just talked about. But I still will help you. So even if people say, "Hey, Dave, I just want a couple of tools," we actually don't want to hire you. But we're thinking about this accountability chart. You said it says in the book. Can you share with what that means? Like we're doing right now, we're talking about things. It's like it's Gina Wickman's IP. It's not mine, and I have the joy of being able to share that. It's also in the books, all this stuff. But I give it away. I have the joy of getting paid for it most of the time. But I'm working with a pro bono client in by me tomorrow. I'm super excited about that one. Maybe more excited about that. It's a city mission of Schenectady. And they do a ton of great work in their community for homeless people and people who are, on that verge of really needing help and have hard times that I've never had. And so I actually reached out to them and I said, I would like to work with you. And I'm super excited about working with them. So anyone who says, I'm starting a business and it's not EOS is right for me or not, probably not, because one solopreneur is not good. I need life change. I'm not a life coach, but what would you do if you're trying to be an entrepreneur? I've had people, I just had a conversation last week with somebody like that. I just love to help if I can find the time. And if I can't find the time, I'll find the time, regardless. So if they just look me up that way, anyway, I will take the call. I will not charge you or anyone. And at some point, if they want to work with me at the EOS Implementer, sure, we'll do it there. We'll do it then.
Love it. Love it. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time. Now I feel bad because I took you over 5 minutes, but thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. This was an awesome conversation.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. I felt like 10 minutes, so thanks for letting me spout out.
Yeah, no, it was, I've got like 3 pages right now, stuff I've got to review after this, but like we covered a lot of topics and I didn't even think we were going to get to half these. So this was a lot of fun. Thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Ryan.